Okay, I'm going to make you a co-host. Jim, do you need to share anything today? Any documents or anything?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, I'm on the learning curve here.
Okay.
I was hoping that Matt had some documents that he could send to me, so I get up to speed.
You're going to get a lot from me. So let me start out with a history of kind of where we've come from, and that'll kind of explain the documents that I have and then what the current system is. All right, so I'm able to share, right? Let's see, share screen. This one here, we're going to share screen one. All right, so
okay, I see like a Windows, just a plain blue window right now.
yeah, that's not the one I told it to share.
Try again.
Stop share. Oh my God. So I moved my laptop down in front. And so when I move my mouse, the laptop's supposed to be way over to the right.
Yeah.
And it's not there. So I have to play spatial games in my head. Share screen 3. Okay. So this is basically my history folder that I'm going to send all of this over. So what I've always done in the past, I've kept a separate folder for EMC Fest and a separate folder for finances for that year. Now, when I started, all I was doing for finances was keeping a ledger in Excel, and I've got a separate ledger for every year. Then at the end of the year, we did a document called an L50, which was basically you take all the stuff from your ledger and you do all these calculations with it, and that's your tax reporting. That eventually went away and was replaced by a system called NetSuite. Now, NetSuite, I still kept a ledger, but we didn't have to worry about doing the L50 at the end of the year. So I would just like, oh, and by the way, we've got 2 checking accounts. We've got the Chapter 8 checking account and the travel fund checking account. We have to keep those separate. So basically a ledger for a year would look like, no, that's fixed assets tracking. Come on.
Still loading.
Would look like this. So that's a typical amount of transactions for a year. Very manageable. The problem is stuff like these PowWeb here. These tend to be, and SurveyMonkey, these are happening on the credit card, and like I'm not getting any notification of them. So basically they would show up on our bank statements, and then at the end of every month I would enter them into our ledger and balance the books and make sure that everything balanced. So this bright yellow means that I balanced it at the end of the month. You'll notice that the PowWeb stuff typically doesn't have a note, although like here it had privacy for the section website. I don't get a lot of information about what the PowWeb expenses are. They're usually like $10.99 or $29.99 or whatever. That's stuff that Scott maintains the websites in the background. I typically don't categorize them. I just know that it's domain stuff. Yeah.
The website.
And then let's see. No, so this was before we were on PayPal. So everything was handled by check when we're handling the payment of the EMC Fest stuff.
Yeah.
And we would get giant lump sums here for credit card payments. So basically all of the credit card stuff went into one web sheet that I would I'd just populate, I'd send it in, and it would just go into the spreadsheet as a single dollar value. So then we got PayPal.
Yeah.
And then, so when PayPal came about, oh my God. So I stopped saving the ledger at the end of the year. So I have a ongoing ledger, which I'll show you. So I stopped saving yearly ledgers because I didn't have to submit them any longer for the tax documents because everything was handled in NetSuite. I just used the general ledger to verify and balance the books. So like you'll see here, if it's got an X in it, that means that I verified this transaction versus NetSuite. And then I did again, I would still balance the books at the end of every month because we were getting concentration banking statements. We no longer get concentration banking statements, but at the end of every month, we would get a statement and it would take all the PayPal activity and it would lump it into one line item. So we got $11,275 that month of PayPal income from people registering on PayPal. And then we paid $359.98 of fees. And I could just enter that both in NetSuite and on my ledger as a monthly activity, one value. Okay, now let's fast forward to today. They have eliminated NetSuite. We have an online banking system, but I can only use it to see our balance. I cannot see our transactions, cannot see transactions. And what happens is 3 times a year, IEEE sends me a spreadsheet that I have to categorize all of the categories, all of the expenses and incomes. Also, this has always been, so you see, I get an email every year about individuals, payments to individuals. So they send this, dear treasurers, in compliance with the US tax regulations, IEEE must report payments made to individuals. These would be our honorariums.
Yeah.
So that they can issue a tax statement to them. Now we haven't had that in the last 2 years. So I simply responded to this. We didn't have any. Now, we used to have to fill out a form and it would go in. Now we do it, or then we started doing it in NetSuite. And it looks like they're still doing it in NetSuite. So I'll probably go into NetSuite and show you how to do that because we still do that. And so that's basically, oh geez. Let me see. I've got a letter, a form letter that I send out when we do these. So for the travel, speaker donations. Do I have? Man, it's been a while since we've done an honorarium. Let's look back at 2016. So in 2016, we had 2 speakers and I wrote them letters that are like this. Here's my time card. You're recording all this great stuff that I have open in the background. I should have done my homework and closed everything. All right, so this is the template for the letter. It basically says, thank you for your presentation on whatever it was. And then I explained that we're giving them an honorarium in a certain amount. And then I give them a W-9 tax document. And then I have a letter that a separate letter that just explains what their responsibility is from a tax standpoint. I've got to have a folder with that saved in it. Yeah, so we got a W-9 form that we send to them. Oh my God, I got to close my time card. So we send them this document. There's actually two versions of it. I think this one from 2015 is more recent, but this one is a web form or a form that they can just fill in. The other one is the one that I typically send because I print it. This one here. Yeah, so, and what I'll do is I'll put the amount right in here. That allows me to edit the amount of the honorarium. And then it's just a little bit more user-friendly form to use. And then this document here called tax documents goes in the letter. I've really got to just close that. There we go. So this is the letter that just is a little form letter saying, please fill out the W-9 form. And I can either have them email an electronic copy to me and then I'll send it in for them, or they can, I can either send them an electronic copy or they can mail it to me. And then that's what I'm going to submit to the IEEE at the end of well, I submit this to them at the time of the event, and then I report it at the end of the year as well. When you're sending something to IEEE, it's, I think it's tax compliance. I'll have to look this up for you. Is it tax reporting or tax compliance?
Put at IEEE and see if it shows you all the IEEE people. Any of those?
Nope.
No.
I think it's tax compliance.
Yeah.
Did I spell that wrong?
Maybe there's a space in it. Let's see the one below it. You mean tax compliance?
No, there's a website that I have, or an automated email address that I have to send it to.
Okay.
I will probably end up having to forward a bunch of these emails to you that are like critical pieces of information. Okay.
Matt,
Now, yeah.
before we go on, does IEEE have documentations on the responsibilities of the treasurer, list the steps, or do you have a flow chart that shows on, one of these, the number of steps you have to go through, whatever?
So the answer to both questions is no.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right, I am going to show you what our current, continuing the history lesson. This is what we have to do now. So I mentioned that 3 times a year, they send us a document that we have to go through. So the ledger that they send me, and this is just for a couple months. The last one is just going to be December, but it looks like this. And I've already started populating it because we have to go through, and every single one of these items we have to categorize as a cost or revenue. And then we have to go through each item and put a code in this column. The codes are in the email.
Why are those in a drop down?
They're in a drop down, but there's
Oh.
so many of them that you have to refer to. Oh, this isn't the, this is a procedure that they send on how to do it. So
Okay.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But the codes are in this document here.
Yeah.
And so like, these are all the codes that we have to choose from, and we have to go through every single item and select one of these codes and put it in there. This is the thing that that's due at the end of the month. I'll have it done and I'll send you a copy of it so that you have like a reference of how to do it. It's a little bit daunting, but we only use a few of these codes. Anything having to do with EMC Fest is considered conference expenses or conference revenue.
Okay.
The stuff that we do for the website would be like a publications expense.
Hmm. Maybe you can highlight those in the spreadsheet before you send it to Jim, the ones that you actually use.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to fill out this. Let me close some of this. That is not the one. This document here. So I will finish this entire document.
Mhm.
And our responsibility is to fill in these two columns here.
Okay.
So I'll finish that, and that will be like this column will automatically fill in. This column here automatically fills in when we fill in this column.
Okay.
And that'll be a good reference. So like when we get it, they fill in the account interest. That's
Okay.
the only thing they fill in. But what's killer
Yeah.
is every single one of these PayPal items
Yeah.
now is a separate line item.
Oh, geez.
And they don't group them by expenses and incomes and expenses. They just
Yeah.
put them in, and you have to go through and just manually input every single one of them. And because they're every other, you can't just like say, okay, this is the cost,
Yeah.
paste it down. No, you got to go through line by line and figure it out.
Oh.
Um,
You think we should still keep two checking accounts? I mean, you think we should maybe roll it back into one? Would that simplify life?
Well, the travel account only accrues interest right now. I haven't written a check out of it in a few years, so maybe.
Okay.
Like they didn't even send me one of these for the travel account because all it had was interest, and they already knew what that was, so they just
Oh,
did it for me.
okay.
But
Kimball wanted to use that account again, so that'll be a problem for Jim if we start activating that again.
so my understanding that is eventually they're going to implement a new system, and they're not going to be sending this to us.
Yeah.
They're going to just have it so that it's like a web entry system like NetSuite was.
I see.
When do you think they're going to do that, Matt?
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of communication about that. The head of the person who was our contact at IEEE resigned the middle of this year, and they had someone else take over. I think that's probably going to delay the implementation.
Well, I guess my thinking is if that's going to happen in the near future, there's no point in me learning the old system.
There is no old system for you to learn. This is basically all
Well,
there is.
Well, I'm saying the procedures and all that you have to go through. So,
Well, I don't know how long this particular system here is going to be around. And this particular system here is astronomically more time consuming than anything we've done in the past. This is why I just can't get to it. I mean, this is going to take me a while.
Put in all the codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
how many hours on the average do you think you spend per month on this?
Less than 8. Typically in the past, it's been less than 8.
Okay.
In a month, I would say probably 2 to 4 in a normal month. And then December when we're kind of balancing the books and making sure everything is done, maybe 2 to 3 days, like work days. So maybe 16 to 24 hours in December or January. Yeah, it actually ends up being in January.
And you think that'll decrease with the new system?
It should, if you keep up with your documents. Like if you save it all to the end, then it's going to be a lot harder to track down.
Yeah.
But if you do it every month, it's very manageable.
Okay.
But the way they do it now is they make you wait until the end. They send, like, this is May through November, and they're like, you've got 1 month, go. And it it's gonna take, I mean, this document right here is probably gonna take me 6 hours to fill out.
Mhm.
Now the next one is just going to be December. That one should be pretty easy because I don't think we had a whole lot going on for PayPal. You can see that the PayPal stuff pretty much ended in September, and then we didn't get any more PayPal stuff. So like December is going to have like 3 things on it. Super easy. The other thing I do is I keep for every EMC Fest a expense balance, like a budget. And it basically looks like this. This up here is the expense summary. This is the breakdown of the expenses. I've got budgets and actuals. And then this is the credit card income, or the income. And then typically we'll have to do a bunch of refunds. Now this year, like we've started up EMC Fest and canceled it like
Twice.
Twice? Is it only twice?
We're on the third one. It was 2020, 2021. Now we're into 2022.
So
we're in the third try at this.
So I don't have one of these built for this one. I'm just trying to pay people back when Scott sends me a notification to pay people back. Most of the time, Scott's able to get a hold of them for PayPal and reimburse them directly through PayPal. And then there's nothing for me to do.
If it's within 90 days or something. If it goes past that, we have to mail them a check.
Right. And I believe I still owe one person a check right now. But what's killer is I have got to go back and figure out, like I photocopy a check every time I write one. Yeah. And I'm looking in my folder and I'm missing 2 checks. And I'm like, okay, I'll just look up the check images on NetSuite, but I can't because we don't have a ledger anymore.
Oh.
So I'm trying to figure out if I paid one of these people yet or not. And that's just poor record keeping on my part. I lost my photocopies of the checks, and I'll have that cleared up before I pass this on.
Okay.
I might have scanned them and then never like threw it in the folder. That's probably what I did.
Yeah.
Because I scan so much crap that sometimes, whatever. Work computer, you know. I'll find it and have it cleared up before I pass this off. Okay. I don't want to leave any loose ends. I'll have all my stuff tied down and done before I like let this all go, because it's not fair to leave a mess for anybody.
Okay. So when you get that completed, then you can mail the checkbook to Jim. Okay.
Yeah, and I keep a. Just a second.
We have to notify IEEE he's the signatory, you know, after you are done.
Sorry, had to take my headset off to get to my drawer. So I keep a folder with like my IEEE stuff in it. This is generally has the last year's receipts in it, expense reports, photocopies of checks, etc. And then at the end of the year, I'll take the document and I'll put all that year's folders in a file, and then I'll hold on to that file. I think I've got I think I went back a while ago and threw away anything that was more than 10 years old because I had an entire file cabinet full of files.
I wonder what we need to do. You wonder what the IEEE requirement is. How many years do we need?
Yeah, because I don't know if I still have. So when Kimball passed this off to me, I had records going back to the 90s. Yeah. And I think I ended up eventually getting rid of them just because I think I asked someone at IEEE how long we needed to keep the stuff.
Okay.
But I don't remember the answer.
Then we gotta make Jim a signatory, so I don't know if that's through the bank or through IEEE.
Yeah, is
We'll have to
on,
mail signature card out or something, right?
no, you don't do it like that anymore.
Oh, no more? Okay.
It was in one of these emails that I just showed you.
Does the bank have the system? Does our new bank have the system where you can tell it who to make the check out to and how much, and it'll mail the check right from the bank? Is that a feature of our new bank?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay,
I hear it is finance solutions at IEEE.org is the one that we need to contact.
okay. That's the only time you write a check is when you have to mail it to somebody.
Mhm. Or when we have to do the donations in the name of individuals,
Oh,
which
yeah.
you guys are probably interested in. So I have a document for that, a folder, speaker donations. Now you, Jim, have been maintaining the Excel document, and it typically looks something like this. Not like this, like this. The tricky part about this is typically we've got this information here, the first 4 columns. What they used to do is they needed me to obtain a mailing address and an email address for everyone so that they could send an individual letter to them. That is not typically something that we had. It wasn't something that was provided to me. So I spent hours and hours and hours trying to track all this information down. And eventually I talked to IEEE and said, look, we already write them a letter.
Yeah.
So they don't send them letters anymore. So I don't fill those out anymore.
Oh, good. That's good.
Jeez.
See, Jim, there's something good here today.
Let's see, what else do I have in this folder? What I will do is I will hunt down all my emails related to this topic, and throw them in this folder as well so that you have stuff to track down, contacts to talk to. The people involved in this generally move positions every 2 years or so, and you have to start the process over. A while back, it was really nice because they would let me do concentration banking transfers. And it was just like, please transfer money in the amount of this to this other account. And it was done. And then the next person took over and they're like, no, you need to send us a check. Sometimes I have to write them letters. Sometimes I have to write them checks. Sometimes they have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And it takes them a while to figure it out. I mean, they're not volunteers, they're paid professionals, but
Right.
they also turn over every few years and it's a new process for them as well. So, this is crap for training. I'm sorry. Man, what else is there? Oh, there's a very important document that we have. It's our tax exempt form. Whenever we go to an event to rent something, we need to provide them with a tax exempt form.
Right.
This document, these 3 documents here are all the same thing.
Okay.
Tax exempt form, Michigan tax exempt form.
Okay.
Man, I mean, that's basically it.
Okay. All right.
So I need to spend some time and get very specific emails thrown into these folders so that it's clear basically the introductory, like a lot of times when I'm contacting someone, I have at IEEE, I have like a form letter already to go so that I don't have to like write it new every year.
Yeah.
So I've got those saved in email templates. I'll drop those in the folders here. Typically I just pull them out of my Outlook, but that's convenient for me, not convenient for handing it off to somebody else. So I will take all of those emails and put them in the appropriate folders so that they're, useful references on how we've done things in the past.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, but this is like
Yeah,
18 years of documentation. Like
right.
it's really not that much on a
No,
year to year basis. It's
no.
just, it looks like there's a lot here because there's 18
History.
years worth of documents here.
Right, right, right. Okay.
um, Jim, do you have any questions?
I have a lot of questions. I think the thing that'll work best for me is when a task comes up for me to maybe try to figure out how to do it and then contact you uh, so that I know what steps to take on this.
I would totally be willing to support that because I realize that I don't really have any training material available. And I remember at one point I had said, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to be the treasurer anymore," and Kimball said, "Okay, you need to write a training document that explains everything you do before you resign." So I never resigned because I'm like, that's more work than actually doing it. Like I said, this is probably 40 hours a week a year. But writing the training document, like to cover everything that he was talking about would have taken me more than that.
Right.
So, but that's because,
Well, in the interest of time, I guess I would suggest that when the next task comes up, that maybe you sketch something that says, go to this folder, use this file and whatever. If we take it a piece at a time, we can write a manual, is what I'm saying. I don't have very good short-term memory, so I have to work really hard to keep things. I have all kinds of documents that I use so that I know when I have a task to do, where to go to figure out how to do it. So
mhm.
if you can help me with that, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But to throw the whole thing out there, it's very confusing.
I understand. I mean, I'm trying to give you a history of everything that we've done and what we're doing now and how much there actually is to do. Um, there's not a whole lot to do, but right now the system is, it's interesting because like I'm not really interested in learning a new system. So this is a great time for me to bow out because when the new system gets rolled out, like you'll be ready to learn it.
Mhm. All right, well, let's try. What's a good time of the day to call you? Whenever I'm looking into the future, if I have some questions I want to ask you, and I'm probably going to bother you a lot until I get settled into this. Is there a particular time? I mean, do you work at home, 10 o'clock at night for a half hour or, whatever? What's a good time?
So all of my documentation is on my work computer. So you would have to really get a hold of me at work. I typically work 8 until 4, 7:30 until 4, somewhere like that. I'm usually in the office. But if you call me, just leave me a voicemail and I'll be able to get back to you because I'm pretty hard to get a hold of on the phone.
Hmm.
I could give you my cell phone number, but unless I'm at my computer, a lot of times I'm not going to be able to answer you. So me calling you back is probably going to be the best way to do it, because you can tell me what you're looking for and I can dig for it before I call you back, because sometimes it takes me a while to find stuff.
Well, things are going to come to you now. So perhaps you can sketch a note on that and send it to me and get me into it that way, instead of just handing me everything and say, figure out which one to use when such and such comes in.
Okay. Scott, what treasurer activities do we have coming up?
Well, as ENC Fest ramps up, we're gonna advertise it, resend it out. Right now, there's only 25 people registered, but we're not promoting it at the moment. We're gonna have a meeting. I figure it was March 1st or April 1st. We're gonna touch base again. And if we feel it's a go, then we'll promote it again, and then we'll be, getting more transactions. So those will all be PayPal transactions. The tables are pretty much sold out, but even then, those will be PayPal transactions.
Yeah, because the way things are right now, like the only activities that I ever have to do are I get this massive assignment from IEEE every 6 months or 5 months that takes forever. And then every once in a while I have to write a check.
And there'll be some Power Web, charges.
But I can't do anything about them.
No, they're just gonna trickle in and whatever.
Right. All I can do is wait for this document to come out from IEEE saying, here's 5 months worth of activity that you need to pour through line by line.
So,
And then every once in a while you say, hey, I need you to issue a check to so-and-so for a refund.
Refund checks. Yeah. Yeah. So that could happen if this keeps dragging on with the MC Fest, but.
And then there's a few
Yeah.
expense reports every once in a while.
Right. Yeah.
So what I would prefer, I think, is you're kind of committed to stay to this to the fall. Is that right, Matt?
Well, I can do that. Yeah. I mean,
So what I'm saying is then, as have things come to you, don't have anything sent to me, and then you forward it to me and write some brief instructions, whatever, and I'll try to do it.
Or we
If I
can
have
use this
problems, I'll
format.
get back to you. I'd rather do that incrementally than, to have everything dumped and then have me figure out how to do it.
Actually, that sounds like a really good suggestion. As things come to me,
Yep.
I'll forward them to you with like a brief instruction on how to do it.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And so if we go through this together once, then it should be okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
No.
I mean, do you have anything you want to send me now and have me start learning it, or?
Matt, why don't you roll up those files you showed us today, just roll those up and zip it or park it on a Google Drive or something that he can download at his computer and just start sniffing through them and looking at them. You know what I'm saying? Just give him a copy of everything.
Well,
Yeah.
And you can.
that's not
Sound good?
Okay. No, I'd like to go back to task by task.
Okay, great.
And if you see a task coming, then maybe you can do look at this now because you're going to have something coming next week or whatever, But the worst case scenario is that things just come to you, you write notes and send them to me, and let's see how it goes.
Okay, sure.
I think that's a really fair way to do it. Yep. I think that's
Yep.
as it comes along, that way you get an idea of the cadence of the work, and
Yeah.
not a problem.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time on this, and let's hope it goes smoothly.
Well, thank you for volunteering. I will tried to make this as painless as possible. I mean, you can probably see that our individual styles of keeping track of things are probably different.
Well, over the years, I've been treasurer a few times, so it's not like I haven't had some experience at this, but yeah, you're right. I always end up structuring things my way.
Yep, I understand.
Okay.
And I rely heavily on my email archives, and
Yeah.
I'm going to have to clean that up. So I'll do that.
Okay, Matt, take care. And thanks a lot, Scott, for
Okay.
facilitating this. And
Sure.
you've had some experience at this as well, I take it.
Not really, no. No, I do not. I can't say I do. Sorry.
Okay.
So
Take care. Have a good weekend.
okay.
Thank you. You too, Jim.
I'll send you a link to this recording if you guys want to refer back to it.
Now, is there a way that I can keep that? Can you put it on Google Drive so I
Yes.
can access it?
Yep, you'll see it in a couple days. All right.
All right. So you're going to give me,
I'll send you a link to this.
I guess what I want to ask too, if it's easy for you, Matt, to put these documents on a Google Drive as well.
Yeah, I think so. Scott, is it?
Yeah.
I don't have a Google Drive, but if you
I
give me
do.
a space to drop them, I can do that.
If you want to send them to me, Matt, I'll park them on a Google Drive. If you want. Is that what you mean or no?
Well, I think emailing them is going to be the problem. Is there just a way that for me to drop them onto a drive? Is there a Google Drive location that we have for IEEE that I can put them on?
I have my own IEEE, my SR Lytle at IEEE. Yeah, I have a Google Drive over there too. But
well, sounds like you need to.
We have our PowerWeb drives too. I mean, I can park stuff on the PowerWeb drive, but Google Drive's easier to use, I think.
I've had some experience with Google Drive, and if all the folders are structured, then it seems to me that you can copy and paste them right on the drive.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Or I can make you a FTP, Matt, and you can just dump them into PowerWeb, and I can move over to a Google Drive from there too. So whatever.
Whichever is easier for you. I mean, what we can and cannot do from our work computers in terms of passing files. You probably know better than I do.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Would it make sense if it's a problem for you to export these, Matt, if we provide you with a drive that you can just put it on?
I could do that too.
Do you have a thumb drive there, Matt? I mean, I can pop by and pick it up too, and then I can put it up on a Google Drive from there.
I'd have to buy one.
Okay. I thought I left you guys a whole bunch of those thumb drives.
Yeah, Sarah came to me this morning and said, do you know what happened to all those thumb drives? I can't find one.
Oh, no. I thought I put them over there in the bullpen or whatever. Okay. Well,
all right.
If you want to
stand by for instructions. All right.
I can buy some thumb drives on our Amazon account and ship them to you, Matt, if you want a few thumb drives, if that's helpful.
Just to transfer files and stuff. I mean,
yeah, I'll just send some thumb drives over there.
We can do that, but I think it would just be cheaper to do Google Drive, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Do you have a Google Drive? You have a Google account? You have Google. You have Google Mail, right?
I've got Google. I've got Google Mail. Do I have Google Drive? I don't know.
Here's what you do. You type drive.google.com, and then you upload, and then you can point to it and push share. So just type in the address bar there.
Just a second.
Drive.google.com.
Okay, I'm going to bow out of this while
okay.
You guys figure out what's
we will.
This way. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
There it is.
Can we stop the recording then?
Yeah, I will stop.
Hey, look it.
recording.
I've got a Pokemon